Now, welcome to another Let's Watch Some Star Wars, where this time it is Messenger, the 7th episode of Andor Season 2. And once again, I'll just be rewatching the episode. I will pause it from time to time, pretty much during every scene. I'll put up a screenshot or two, talk about what's going on, tell you what I like, what I don't like, or whatever just happens to pop into my head. And so let's waste no time and get right back into it. Alright, so the episode opens up on Yavin 4, where we see the rebel base is up and running and functional, where we see the rebellion has really organized and turned into an actual military, not just a group of randoms trying to stop the Empire somehow, which is kind of what we saw last time we were here a couple arcs ago. We saw that group of rebels in the jungle, and they were fighting amongst themselves because they had no resources, they had no leadership, and it was just chaos. It showed just how fragile the early rebellion is, how quickly and easily it can all fall apart. But they have obviously persevered, and here they are, organized. Here they are, again, an actual military. We see a ship arriving. We're hearing about how they have to report to their duty officer. They have structure. They have everything figured out now, and it only took a few short years to do that, probably because of how bad the Empire is and how many people now want to fight. Also here we see that Cassian and Bix are living on Yavin. They have a nice little cabin in the jungle, essentially. And last we saw them, they were on Coruscant. They were living in a safe house of Luthen, so obviously things have changed there. Furthermore, we see Cassian is injured. He's been shot in the shoulder, and this is really just trying to remind us that, yes, time has gone by. They have done other missions, they have done other things, just like at the start of the last arc where they had to shoot an Imperial officer or soldier that saw Bix's face. They're just telling you that things happen off screen. It's reminding us of the passage of time, and I like how both arcs, the last two arcs, have sort of done this and just kind of got us up to speed on what has happened in a very quick way with Bix and Cassian. And again, here Cassian has some sort of lingering injury from being shot, and Bix is attending to him, which is when Willman shows up. He was on that transport we see at the beginning, and immediately Cassian is like, "So hey, what have you been up to?" Not so much because he cares about Willman, not that he doesn't care about Willman, he very much does, they are friends, but because he wants to know what Luthen has been putting him through. What has Luthen been making you do, essentially? And Willman doesn't want to say. And what I find a little curious here is I kind of thought that Willman had gone Team Saw last arc, after he huffed the Redonium and all of that, and the brilliant speech by Saw Gerrera, but apparently he still is with Luthen. And Cassian is kind of leaving Team Luthen because here is Willman saying, Luthen has been trying to contact you, he's kind of got a mission for you, but Cassian doesn't seem too interested in any of that. And so this is a really good sort of establishing scene, again reminding us time has gone by and what has changed between Cassian and Luthen, that they are sort of separating. And here's Cassian on Yavin, which we'll soon learn is not really with Luthen. This is kind of outside of what he has been doing, not that he is against them or anything, but this isn't directly Luthen's thing anymore. And Cassian is sort of separating himself from that, though he also wants to separate himself from this, but we'll get to that. The next scene then is a quick one that does, again, a perfect job of just sort of getting us up to speed on everything that has been going on Gorman or in Palmo, the city. We see and hear news reports about a terrorist attack last night, and we don't know how many casualties there are for the Imperials. It is very much painting the picture of course, that the Empire are the good guys, and this resistance on Gorman are the bad guys. We heard about that way back in Season 1, how the Ministry of Enlightenment was kind of painting the picture here, all part of a grander plan to take control or to take the resources from the planet, which would probably destroy it in the process. We see the result of all the gears that have been turning, and we see one of the main cogs in the machine, if you will, that being Cyril, who has, whether he knew it or not, and he didn't, has been playing a huge role to get them to this point with the people of Gorman. And we now see that the plaza is empty. This plaza that, if you remember in the last arc when Cassian arrived or was there to assess the Gormans, we heard about a cafe where you once had a fight to get a seat because this was the place that all designers came to. It was a rite of passage for designers. And now it is empty. Everything Gorman once was, everything these people had, everything this culture was, is now gone because of the Empire. And not only that, not only have they lost everything, but they are being painted as the bad guys by the media, and you have to believe that a lot of the galaxy is believing it or eating it up. Then it's back to Yavin, where Willman is telling Cassian pretty much what he's been up to, that yes, he's been working for Luthen, he's been on Gorman, and Cassian's upset because he knows Gorman is, well, things are going to go wrong there if they keep pushing. He saw how unprepared the Gormans were, though, yes, in a year, things can change. Either way, this seems more about Cassian not liking him working for Luthen than anything else. Again, we know there's some sort of rift that has formed between the two, probably from what happened last arc, where Luthen went to Bix without telling Cassian about it and all of that. Anyway, Cassian not all too happy about this, but then Wilman tells him that Dedra is on Gorman, Dedra being the one who is targeting them, targeting Luthen and Cassian, who tortured Bix and killed his father. But even still, it's not necessarily about revenge, it's about taking an important piece of the Empire off the board. She keeps winning, and he wants to stop her from winning. But Cassian doesn't seem to want to have any part of it. He's got a meeting to attend, so he storms off, and that's when it's almost implied here that Bix is considering going to take out Dedra. At least that's what I thought at first here, because we know Bix has been doing missions and is rather capable at this point, we have to assume. So I almost thought that's what they were implying here, but of course it wouldn't turn out to be the case. Cassian is going to go, and I wonder if maybe she had a hand in that, had a hand in sort of pushing him, and if this all ties into some of the other decisions she is going to make later on in this arc about sacrifices she needs to make for the rebellion. And speaking of Dedra, next we get a little meeting between her and Partagaz, and Partagaz basically says, you know what, we did everything we could to try and find a substitute for this material we need on Gorman, but we couldn't find one, so bad luck Gorman. That's literally what he says, kind of bad luck Gorman. And he says it so casually that even Dedra almost pauses and has a little bit of an issue here with what's going on. Though it could also be because a captain has shown up and is about to kind of take control of the situation. And Partagaz assures her that everybody who is important knows the role you played, and when this is over, you're basically getting a promotion, so just deal with the fact that you're not in necessarily control anymore here, but that you're moving on to bigger and better things after. Cyril then shows up to have a little chat with Dedra because he wants to know what's going on. His sources are telling him there was some sort of setup, that this Imperial bombing or the base that was bombed was a setup. And she's like, well, outside agitators have now come in. And he's like, well, that's why I was brought in the first place, right? So why am I not being kept up to speed on everything? Why am I being kept out of the loop now? What I came here to do is happening, and now you're cutting me off. But she's like, don't worry about it. We're getting promotions. We're going back to Coruscant. Everything's going to be great. And I think there's this part of Dedra that really wants that to be true. I really believe, or maybe I want to believe because I want to believe in the goodness of people or something, but I want to believe that Dedra, though yes, she is a monster, I'm not really trying to defend the things she's done, but I want to believe there is a better person in there, which is another one of those amazing things about this show, that here are two bad guys, though Cyril I think is less of a bad guy. I think Cyril just fell in with the wrong crowd. But here is Dedra, who she grew up under the thumb of the Empire. She grew up in an Imperial orphanage, basically. She was kind of trained to be one of their good soldiers following orders, you could say. But here I am kind of rooting for her and Cyril. I'm rooting that she sees what is going on and that she objects and wants to leave the Empire and wants to have this normal life with Cyril. That she is a different person somewhere, or that Cyril has made her a different person. I'm sort of rooting for an Imperial, not because I agree with anything she stands for or has done or anything like that. I want to make that pretty clear here. But I want to see her become a better person. I am rooting for her, as I am rooting for Cyril as well, though the problem is Cyril is putting the pieces together. He is beginning to understand he has been a pawn or a puppet this whole time, that what he has been told is a lie, and that there is something much bigger going on here, something much more devious and disgusting, really. And it's destroying their relationship, rightfully so, you could argue. I don't think we have a problem with Cyril being mad at Dedra here. But it's tearing these two characters apart that we're really rooting for, and it's just another tragedy of the Empire, you could say. That another time, another place, maybe these two people find each other and they're happy together. Because I think there is something here that works. It's weird, but it works. And you root for it, but you know it's destined to fail. You know it's destined for disaster. Then we're on Coruscant, and we see Mon Mothma and Erskine arriving at the Senate building, and the driver is like, hey, are you going to your office, or what exactly are you up to? I need to know your schedule. I need to report it back. The Senate security wants to know. And as Mon and Erskine are walking away, Mon is like, it's time. I need a new driver. She's had this driver since season 1. He's been a spy or an ISB plant the whole time. She knows it. And Erskine is like, no, don't ask for a new driver. Because imagine if they sent someone smart. I just love that little moment. It's a humorous moment, but it's also true. Imagine if they did send somebody better than this guy who is very obviously an ISB agent. Not that they wouldn't know the next one was too, but he just might be a little bit better at his job in keeping tabs on her than this guy apparently is. Inside the Senate building then, Mon Mothma meets with the senator from Gorman, and this is another just fantastic little scene. It might not seem like much on the surface, but he's telling her, like, hey, I admire what you've done. I should have listened to you. I wish we could turn back the clock. You were telling me a year ago about these problems, and I said, no, if I do that, I'm just going to bring more problems to my people. But here we are a year later, and my people have some real big problems. And he's like, I admire your grace and your energy. And he's kind of telling her, you know what? There are still people out there who are listening to you, who hear your message, and you're doing good work despite the fact that no one seems to be listening. They hear your message, the name of the episode. And it goes back to the last arc where she's talking to all the senators and all of them are telling her, you know what? We can't side with you. We are basically siding with the emperor because he has all the power, and to fight against him is just futile. And we have that moment in the last arc where she gets all upset that she hears them kind of pledging allegiance to the Empire. And it feels like the moment where she just breaks and realizes I can't win in the Senate and that everything I'm doing doesn't matter. But he's telling her it does still matter. And the look on her face, Genevieve O'Reilly, the acting here, the acting in the whole series, she deserves a ton of awards when award season comes rolling around. Anyway, you can see how much that means to her on her face, that look on her face, that there is still this glimmer of hope that I have done good, I can continue to do good. And I think it is this moment that convinces her to eventually go ahead and do the speech we will see, spoiler alert, later on in this arc. I think this is a key moment where she believes in herself again and believes in what she's doing and that there is still a lot of good left for her to do. It just isn't in the Senate. The next scene is another just excellent one, I think, which is kind of a common theme in this episode and this whole arc and this whole season and this whole show, I suppose. Anyway, we first see the monument and we see the Imperial Armory, we now know, built in the background. It is finished, it is complete. That kind of frames the whole scene to come. And it's basically the Resistance trying to decide or arguing over what should we do. We have Caro saying we can't fight back. The more we fight back, the more we provoke them, the worse things get. And then there are others saying we have to fight back. What else are we supposed to do? Just kind of lay down and die? And then it's the guy, I don't remember if we have gotten his name before, but it's the guy who we saw at the meeting, the last arc, who kind of stands up and is angry, and he's the one who carries away Cinta's body. He has obviously become a key member of their resistance, and he kind of does an anti-Luthen speech, whereas, of course, in Season 1, the famous Luthen speech about how you just got to give up everything and fight for the cause is the only thing that matters at all. He's kind of saying the opposite in a way. He's saying that us bickering here is not what Gorman is all about. It's not what our people are all about. At the core, staying true to who we are is more important than anything else, because if we lose that, if we lose who we are, if we sacrifice everything, what are we even fighting for anymore? If we are just as bad as the Empire, then what are we going to be left with at the end of this? Again, it's a brilliant little speech, a brilliant little scene. It is kind of another perspective, an opposite perspective of Luthen's, another one that kind of contradicts or conflicts with Saw's perspective as well, where he just sort of embraces the fight and says to Willman during that Rhydonium scene last arc, right, you just accept it, you are the spark, you're the explosion that's going to change the galaxy. And so we now see all these different perspectives of rebellion. The guy who is willing to give everything, the guy who just says, hey, let's do it because we should do it and because we can, and because it's kind of going to be fun. And then the ones who are like, you know what, if we fight and lose everything, then what's the point of winning? What's the point of winning if we lose ourselves in the process? Moving on, Bix then takes Cassian to see a Force healer, and we could have a fun debate about Force healing and all of that, but let's just go with it here. There is a Force healer, and I think we have to assume she is at the very least Force sensitive, and that, as she even says, sometimes her Force healing kind of works, that it's not exactly like in The Rise of Skywalker, where the wound just like patches up immediately because you're a dyad and all that fun stuff, but that she can kind of encourage healing in the person she's trying to heal. It's an interesting scene because we see Cassian has no interest in any of this. He doesn't believe in the Force, and Marva didn't believe in the Force before him and all that. And after she attempts to heal him, you can tell she's kind of moved by the experience. The Force healer is sort of moved by the experience, that she has felt something. Cassian is still like, I don't care what it is, but Bix, if you want to stay and buy into this crap, you go ahead and do that. And so after Cassian leaves, Bix is like, what did you see? Tell me. And the Force healer is like, a lot of people just kind of carry the weight of the past as a burden. but he is carrying it in a different way. He is carrying it, or it is turning him into something he needs to be and leading him to a place he needs to be. He has an important destiny, you could say, though she tells Bix that maybe the place he needs to be is with you, which is, in a way, what is going to lead to a very interesting decision later on for Bix. I don't want to spoil things because some people do watch these one episode at a time and haven't seen the whole arc yet. But there is going to be an interesting decision out of Bix later. If you know, you know. And here she's beginning to maybe realize that I am sort of a burden to Cassian in a manner of speaking, that he is needed elsewhere, and that by him wanting to be with me, I'm holding him back from other things he can do or should be doing. This is certainly a discussion we will revisit in a future episode, and I hope I haven't maybe spoiled anything for anybody, but it's an interesting scene for a lot of different reasons. For one, it's our first taste of the Force, you could say, in all of Andor. It has ignored it until now, until kind of setting up a destiny for Cassian, kind of implying his importance that, yes, we know is going to come about. We know that he is obviously going to play a big part in stealing the plans to the Death Star. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Rogue One. And it's just kind of interesting that they went there with this, that, again, it is his destiny. They're tying it into the Force and tying it into Star Wars, how you must choose your destiny. Or sometimes your destiny is forced upon you, in a manner of speaking. You don't get that choice, and we will see in time whether or not Cassian gets to make that choice or not. Anyway, we will revisit that scene for a later episode, but for now we move on to this very quick scene between Cyril and Enza, where he's telling her, hey, if you give me something, I might be able to help you out of the situation. I think it's outside agitators causing all this, and we can fix it. Because, again, he's starting to realize he has played a role in something very bad about to come. And she's already like, dude, like, you're one of the bad guys. Like, you're the one who led us into this. Like, why am I going to believe you that you want to help us now? And so she just kind of slaps him. The scene ends, and it's more Cyril coming to realize the part he has played in the coming atrocity, and maybe wanting to do something to stop it. Back to Yavin we then go, where Cassian is kind of flexing his shoulder, and it seems to be feeling better. He even admits to Bix that it is feeling better, that apparently the Force Healer has worked, which only perhaps reinforces Bix's belief in what she told her, that Cassian is a messenger, that there are perhaps people in the galaxy destined for great things. Again, we can go back to Mon Mothma, maybe realizing that she is destined for something great too. But of course, Cassian isn't going to buy it. He doesn't believe it. And I think he is kind of having the opposite epiphany here. He is realizing more and more he just wants to be with Bix. He doesn't want to be a messenger. He doesn't want to be that guy or anything special. He wants to be with her. He wants to run away from all of this already. He's done his part. And you could certainly argue he has done more than, well, most people are ever going to do for the rebellion or for the galaxy, and that he's earned it. But she can't accept that. She can't accept the Empire winning. She can't live a normal life until the Empire is gone. And she thinks, she fully believes Cassian is a big part of the thing, or what will help destroy that Empire. She does believe he is a messenger meant for bigger things than maybe just being with her. There's a very Jedi sacrifice sort of thing going on here, which I do appreciate in a show that otherwise, of course, does not deal with the Force or Jedi pretty much at all. Staying on Yavin then, we see that Cassian has decided to take Luthen's mission and is going with Wilman to try and assassinate Dedra, essentially. But General Draven is not happy about it, and a lot of you will, of course, remember Draven from Rogue One. He's kind of Cassian's superior officer there. Anyway, Draven is kind of telling him, like, you can't just come and go. If you are enjoying the benefits of Yavin, the security of Yavin, you can't act as a privateer and just leave when you want. You've got to be a part of this. You've got to pledge your loyalty to what we're doing here. We can't have people just disobeying the chain of command, or we don't have a real military. We don't have a real fighting force if everybody just runs off and does whatever they want, whenever they want. Next, we see a unit of very young troopers or soldiers being brought to Gorman, and learn that more are on the way, and we can kind of assume they are being brought in because of just how green they are, just how new they are, and that there's a very high chance that if things go wrong, they're not going to handle the situation very well, which is what the Empire wants. Dedra even comments about how they look like children. Furthermore, if things do go wrong and Imperials are killed, which again we can safely assume is going to happen, it's going to look even worse in the news when we see the young soldiers have died, that 18 or 19-year-old, this person or that has been killed by this Gorman terrorist movement. It's just going to help frame it all in a certain way that these innocent young men have been killed by, again, these terrorists on Gorman. Then, after a quick scene of Cassian scaring the crap out of Wilman as they are flying in to Gorman and he's flying low and just, kind of having a little fun with it, we see Vel come visit Bix on Yavin, and we get a kind of an update on what Vel's been up to. She's now working intake here on Yavin. She's kind of with this crew and even says she's no longer one of Luthen's crazy puppets just kind of running around the galaxy doing missions for him. They are part of something bigger and better, and that they need Cassian to be a part of it as well. They need to be able to count on him. They can't have him just running off and doing his own thing whenever he wants. They need him in line, that a little discipline is not a lot to ask for in order to win this war. And she basically assures him that when the time comes, when they need him, Cassian will be there. The episode then ends with Wilman and Cassian arriving in the city, arriving in Palmo. Cassian goes to check into the same hotel he checked into the first time, and it's the same guy at the desk. It's the same bellhop, essentially, and he recognizes Cassian. He doesn't give him away or anything like that, but instead he tries to help him. He lets Cassian know that the guest list gets turned in every afternoon, and that the other lady that was with them will indeed do that. He also says you'll have to carry your own bags this time, and that you know the way to your room because, again, you were here before, and I know that. And we actually do see, if you pay attention, you can see the kid, the bellboy, at a resistance meeting earlier, so he is, of course, a part of all of this. Anyway, we also see that Wilman apparently has a new girlfriend here on Gorman. And the last thing we then see in this episode is Cassian showing us his rifle, the same one I believe he uses in Rogue One that he's going to use to assassinate Jin's father to kill Galen Erso. But anyway, there is a bit of a problem because when he opens up the window or the door, he hears chatter, that famous Imperial stormtrooper chatter, and it turns out that stationed right above him are two stormtroopers, which is of course going to cause a bit of a problem. And so that is episode 7, that is Messenger, and it is a glorious, fantastic episode just filled with tension. It is, as I described in my overall review or my overview of this arc, it is like a bomb ticking because we know everything is about to go wrong. We know things are about to go terribly wrong and that Gorman is about to pay a heavy price for simply having resources the Empire wants. And it is such a beautifully crafted episode. It looks gorgeous. The performances are once again top-notch, and the score really kind of stands out in this arc. I mean, it's been good the whole series, don't get me wrong. I have loved the score. Some of the pieces from the first season, from the prison arc in particular, are just fantastic. But here they were once again really standing out. Everything stands out. Everything is so well done and so well crafted. And this is just the beginning of an arc that is near perfection, if you ask me. Alright, well that is going to be all I got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell me what you thought of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And of course, I will be doing the other 2 episodes in this arc or in this block the next 2 days. Tomorrow is episode 8, and the day after that is the 9th one. Either way, leave your comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.